Welcome back, Kicks and Minivans, the podcast for dads who love sneakers, season 2 underway. Here we go. Well, it has been a long summer. Got some much needed break and rest and time with the family. I hope you did as well. And I'm looking forward. I'm glad fall's back. Fall's my favorite season. To me, like, September is more of a new year than January is. It follows the natural rhythm of life. It feels like the new start to the natural rhythm of life. You know, school starting back up, people getting back into their routines, the swing of things. It's like a second chance for a new year, you know? And so really excited to dive back into the podcast. We're going to still be coming at you with new episodes every other week. We're going to be trying to keep on top of the 8-Minute Mondays as well, to give you guys some extra content, some little more snippets. If you can't always tune into a full-length episode, get some little 8-minute nuggets here and there. So yeah, we're going to be trying to keep on top of all that, man. But hey, we busy. We doing what we can. And loving it. And ultimately, you know, the goal, the mission of this podcast, and really I feel like everything I'm doing right now is to help men win in marriage and parenting. I believe that there is so much power that God has given to men as the leaders of their homes and their families, and it is our job to care for, to lead, to guide, to protect our loved ones. And I want to help men do that. And I think the best way that we can win in marriage and parenting is to be the healthiest version of ourselves. And so at the core of a lot of what I'm doing is I'm trying to get to the healthiest version of myself as well. Not just physically, but spiritually, emotionally, mentally, financially, all those different areas. We had an episode early on last season with Nate Brandon. We talked about the 6 domains of health. And so all of those areas of health, I'm trying to be the best I can be in each of those, and I want you to be that as well. And so everything we do is to help men win in marriage and parenting, to help you get to be healthier for the sake of your kids, for the sake of your spouse, for the sake of your home, and for you as well, man, because you deserve to be in a healthy spot too. Well, I wanted to kick off with the kicks of the week for the first episode of season 2. We all probably have a love-hate relationship with sneakers, the app. Probably more hate than love, if we're honest. But there was one random time, I think it was 2021, there was a release on a Saturday, and I was like, they alright. Like, I kind of figured, I'm like, I'll put this one in, and I'll take an L on this one, because, like, I don't love it, but I wouldn't hate if I got it. But I was like, I'll take an L on this one, so that Nike chalks it up as an L, so they'll give me a dub on a pair that I really want. You know, like, that was my mindset going into it. Ended up getting the dub on them. And so I was actually, like, a little disappointed at first, if I'm honest, that I got a dub on them when, like, there was a bunch of other sneakers that I wanted a lot more, that I got an L on. But it is these right here. If you're listening and can't see, it is the Jordan 3 Racer Blue. These came out a couple years ago. And now that I've had them a while, I love these, man. Because Jordan 3s weren't my favorite then, but they have climbed steadily. They are probably the most comfortable Jordans that I own is the Jordan 3 line. I started getting rid of a bunch of my 4s because they just hurt my feet. I don't know if anyone else has had that experience with the 4s, but they've hurt my feet. And these ones especially came up in value for me personally. Not like, you know, on the market, but for me personally, these hold a lot of value now because my son's first pair of J's is the exact same Jordan 3 Racer Blues right there. His a little dirtier than mine because he wore them. But they're still in pretty good shape considering that like a 2-year-old was wearing these the whole time. But it's his first pair of J's, our first pair of matching sneaks, and they're still in good enough shape that his little bro's gonna be able to wear these before too long. So this is a pair that I thought about flipping them as soon as I got them, but I held on to them, and now that, you know, there's a matching pair, I'm not getting rid of these Johns. So these are the kicks of the week, first week of the new season. It's my first pair of matching J's that I've owned with my son, the Jordan 3 Racer Blues. So I'd love to hear from y'all. Did y'all get any good pickups this summer? This has been a slow year for sneaker pickups for me. I got the Jordan 5 UNCs, and I think that's it. No, I did get a pair of Jordan 5 Olympics for like $90. So that was dope. That's like a new pair of beaters for me. But yeah, interested to hear, did y'all get anything hot over the summer? What y'all rocking right now? Would love to hear about it. You probably already know the answer to the question of the title of this podcast: is marriage outdated? If you know me, if you've listened to any episode of this podcast or spent 2 minutes with me, you know my answer to that. But I had to ask the question because there's a very famous person that came out in another podcast saying that it was outdated. And so I want to dialogue about that. I want to talk about that for a second because it's a very influential person. It's Drake, right? If you don't know who Drake is, then I'm shocked you know what a podcast is. If you don't know who Drake is, one of the biggest music influencers in the world, one of the biggest artists of all time, one of the greatest selling artists of all time. But he was on a podcast and someone was asking him about marriage and why he's not married yet. And this was his answer. Someone said, "Why aren't you married yet?" He said, "I don't know. It seems like a thing of like ancient times or something. I think I will eventually. You ask me why haven't I gotten married? The truth, I don't know. I don't think I can offer somebody what they'd be looking for right now, just consistency. I think my life, my work is my priority. So then I wouldn't want to not be able to contribute as a partner." So he kind of rebounded himself a little bit there. He started out though, like his first response, which is usually like our most honest response is our gut reaction to something. His first response was that marriage was a thing of like ancient times or something, his exact words. But then he goes on to say like, "Oh, maybe I will eventually. I just don't think I can contribute enough as a partner," which is all like, you know, good reasons, or at least what people say are good reasons. If they're trying to give a good reason as to why they're not getting married. But it begs the question, like, does he have a point? Does Drake have a point? Obviously, Drake's a brilliant dude. You know, you don't get to where he is just by luck. You get to where he is by obviously a ton of talent, but a lot of hard work, a lot of brains, having the right people around you. Yeah, there might be some luck factored into all that, but you don't get where you are, where he is, if you're not a smart guy. And so as a smart individual, like, you have to ask, does he have a point? Especially when you look at the marriage statistics of today, right? Like, it's widely recognized and understood that half of all marriages end in divorce. But that's only partially true because half of first marriages end in divorce. Right? If you go to second marriages, people that were married, divorced, and then remarried, half of first marriages end in divorce, 67% of second marriages end in divorce, 73% of third marriages end in divorce, and it just keeps on going up from there. Right? So it's like if you're on like spouse number 6, like, just why bother at that point? So yeah, half of all marriages end in divorce, but that's only half of first marriages, and almost half, 40% of new marriages include a partner that was already married. So that means only 6 out of 10 marriages are actually first marriages for both parties involved. Right? And so if you do all the math of that, it's like more like 60+% of all marriages end in divorce, if you want to get nerdy about it. Right? And so in over half of marriages ending in divorce, you have to ask, like, does Drake have a point in saying that marriage is an outdated construct? Like, is it just something of ancient times, right? I think that's a valid question, especially for someone from Drake's seat where he's sitting, right? I think, you know, you have to ask that question, especially for someone like Drake and where he's sitting, the unique situation that he finds himself in life. But I think a lot of people are asking that question. They're like, hey, we live together. Maybe you've been with someone for like 10 years. You're not married yet. You're boyfriend, girlfriend. And you're like, hey, we live together. We got a house together. We got kids together. Like, we're practically married already. Why do I need a piece of paper? Why do I got to get the government involved? Like, what's the point of marriage if we're already like kind of married, doing the whole house thing anyway? And I think it's a good question. I think it's a question worth talking about. And I think especially from where Drake's sitting, right? From where Drake's sitting, I think it would be very hard if I was in his shoes. marriage would be such a tough thing to approach. Because Drake is worth, according to celebritynetworth.com, which, you know, who knows how accurate that is, that says that he is worth $250 million. $250 million. If you're listening to this podcast, most of us cannot fathom that type of money. If you're listening to this podcast and you can fathom that, like, hit me up. Like, let's talk about a sponsorship, right? Like, let's work something out. But most of us listening, we cannot fathom that type of money, right? If you made the average salary, which we'll just say $50K a year, just for easy purposes. I think average salary in America is like $58,000 or something. But for easy math, $50K a year. If you made $50K a year and paid nothing to taxes, nothing to rent, nothing to food, like you saved every single penny that you made, it would take you 5,000 years at $50K a year to earn the money that Drake has. That's just wild. That's just insane money. That's insane money. Like, I don't know what you do with that kind of money. Like, I have no idea. I have no idea. It's a lot of money. And at his level of fame and wealth, I feel like any new friends, because it's not just that he's rich. You know, like, you could be undercover rich. Like, you could be like these CEOs or whatever that, like, not a lot of people actually know who you are. But he's famous too. And so everyone knows who he is. He's got the money and he's got the fame. So at that level of fame and wealth, I feel like any new friends would have a question mark or asterisk by him. Right? Like, it'd be very hard. Any new relationship you enter into, not just a romantic relationship, but any new friendship or relationship or partnership, like, you'd have to be in the back of your mind, like, does this person actually care about me, or do they just care about my money and my resources and what I got? Like, I feel like that question has to be in your mind if you're a guy like Drake. And so if that's true of any relationship you enter into, that's especially true of a romantic relationship, a potential spouse. Like, you would have to be asking, like, for me, I know Becky ain't married to me for my money, right? Like, she's the one that works. She earns like 95% of the money that comes into this household. Like, she did not marry me for the money. When she met me, I was working as a children's pastor for not a lot of money, right? I've never been a super high income earner, right? If all of a sudden the Sixers call me up and they're like, hey, we really need a 33-year-old white boy with a 3-inch vertical and an inconsistent jump shot to come play point guard, backup point guard for us. Like, are you available? Like, I will jump on that. I will jump on that. You could pay me the vets minimum. Like, I am there. I'll just sit courtside. I'll be the 12th man. I'll be the towel boy, whatever. Like, but then all of a sudden, if I started earning money playing for the Sixers, I know that Becky ain't going to change up. Like, she's been with me for the last 12 years now, 11 years. Like, she ain't going to change up because she was with me when I had nothing. She was with me when she was earning all the bread and I was staying at home with the kids, right? It's different when you're someone like LeBron and you met your spouse in high school and you came up together. Now the potential of LeBron was there. Everyone knew who he was. He was a big deal in high school. But still, like, it's different when you meet someone before the fame, before the wealth, and they were with you when you had nothing and they came up with you, versus meeting someone when you already have the fame and wealth. And so, do I think prenups are a good idea? In 99% of cases, no. In a case like Drake's, probably, yeah. Because there's a vast difference in Drake's wealth and the rest of the world. There's just a vast bridge of difference. But if you got all things are average and, you know, fairly equal, like, prenups are probably a bad idea. For someone in Drake's shoes, as wealthy and as famous as he is, marriage is something that, man, you would have to tiptoe into. You would have to be so cautious about it. And I wouldn't blame the dude if he didn't want to get married. Because just his unique spot in life of being one of the most famous people, one of the most wealthy people in the world, just puts him at a different angle than the rest of us, than you or me. That said, I don't think it makes marriage an ancient thing or an outdated thing or a thing of the past. I think there's benefits to marriage. Obviously, I have a podcast to help men win in marriage and parenting, right? Like, I'm a champion of marriage. I love marriage. I think being married is the dopest thing in the world. I think it's one of the greatest gifts that God has ever given to us. Is like, marriage was his idea. It was God's idea. He don't get enough credit for that. But I think that honoring our spouse in our marriage is one of the ways that we can honor God. And so I absolutely love marriage. I will always be an advocate of healthy marriages. But it poses the question, why get married? Like, why should anyone get married if half of them are going to end up in divorce? Right? And so I want to talk about 3 reasons. There's dozens and dozens and dozens of reasons why marriage is still a great idea. I want to highlight just a couple that I believe are a great idea of why. So if you're single and listening to this, that's great. If you're married and listening to this, these are things to focus on in your marriage, because they're things that help me in my marriage that I try to focus on, right? And I want to throw one caveat on this. Being married to the right person makes all the difference in the world, right? That does not mean go out there and file for divorce if you think you're married to the wrong person. But it does mean if you are single and you are looking, marriage is one area of life where it pays to be very picky. Because being married to the right person will make every area of your life better. Every single area of your life will become better. The hard parts will get a little easier. The great parts will become even greater when you are married to the right one. But if that's true, the opposite is also true. That being married to the wrong one would make every area of your life harder. It will make the good times not as great. It'll make the hard times really, really hard. Now, in those hard times, there is opportunity to join, become a team, be united, get on the same page, share a vision of what life could look like together. But being married to the right one makes all the difference in the world. And so if you're single and you're looking, be picky, become the right one, become the person that the person you're looking for is looking for. This is another podcast episode that we could talk about for singles, but that's my caveat on this. But 3 reasons why I still think marriage is worthwhile in our society today. 1, marriage commits you to each other. I know you're saying, well, you can be committed without it, right? But if you could be committed without marriage, why are you scared of marriage then? Like, if you can say we don't need marriage, we don't need a wedding ring, we don't need a piece of paper from the government to tell us that we're committed to each other, we just are. Like, if that's true, why are you scared of marriage then? Like, that shouldn't frighten you. If you are committed to each other, that shouldn't frighten you. I've never understood this argument of, well, we're committed, we don't need the government to tell us that we are. Like, all right, then go get married. Like, just do it. If you are committed to each other, if y'all been together 10 years, you living together, you bought a house together, you got kids together, like, but you ain't married, like, I would argue that you're not actually committed to each other, because you're leaving the door open for an easy out. It makes absolutely no sense to me. Obviously, there are people that break that commitment. There are people that end in divorce. Over half of marriages end in divorce. However, not even entering into that does not show a sign of commitment. It shows that you want an easy out if things start not going your way. No matter how long you've been together, it leaves the door open, because a breakup is a lot easier than a divorce. But the thing about it is this: when you're in an argument, when you're in a disagreement or a fight with your spouse, take divorce off the table. Like, that's like when me and my wife don't agree on something, like, divorce never comes up. We have never, in over 8 years of being married, neither one of us has ever threatened divorce, mentioned it in any conversation, in any context about the possibility of the two of us divorce. Like, that has never come up. That's not an option. Like, we will exhaust all other options in the entire universe before we come to that. And then we will go through all the other options again. Like, that's not even a thought. That's not even on the radar. That's not, it's multiple choice, and that's not one of the answers. right? So you have to take that off of the table, right? And here's another part of that is the studies show that when you hang out with people that are divorced, if you're in a friend group and most of your friends in that are divorced, you are just that much more likely to get divorced yourself, right? And so I don't say that to say don't be friends with divorced people, especially if they're recently divorced, man. They are probably hurting and they need friends around them. They need good quality friends around them to help them walk through that. What it does mean, though, is be careful who you get your advice from. Because if you are a combination of the 5 people you spend the most time with, you need to be careful who you are listening to, who you are taking advice from. And if you're having marriage problems, it's probably best to not get advice from someone or some people that have gone through divorce themselves, right? If you are trying to take that off the table as an option, be careful who you're getting your advice from. But 1, I think a valuable part of marriage is that it commits you to each other. 2, it makes you better. Because we are fully committed to each other, we can be our full selves. As weird and quirky as that can be sometimes, as exciting and devastating as that can be sometimes, we can be our full selves and know that we are still going to be loved and accepted because we are committed to each other. We are committed to each other wholly, fully, right? And this was one of the things that set Becky apart from every other girl that I had ever dated, right? The unique thing about her, one of the unique things about her, was she was the only girl I've ever dated that didn't try to change me. Right? Like, I've dated a girl that, like, I have a nerdy side. I have a big nerdy side, right? Like, I love Star Wars. Like, I love Batman and superheroes. Like, I love Legos, Pokemon. Like I have a big nerdy side. I dated a girl that hated that and tried to suppress that and, like, didn't love that I played video games, tried to get me to stop playing video games and watching Batman movies, right? I had another, I'm from Philly. I'm not a tough dude, but it's like I'm urban. Like I don't know what you call a white person that's like, without being rude or disrespectful, I don't know what you call like a white person that's not fully acts like a white dude. Like that's I don't know how you define me, right? But I'm not ghetto, but like I have an urban edge to me, I guess, right? I've dated girls that hated that part of me and tried to change me, tried to change the way that I dressed and the way that I talk and the way that I acted and all that stuff. Like, Becky is the only person I've ever been with that fully accepted every part of me. And here's the thing, when I let her in to see one part of me and she accepted that and still loved me anyway, that built that trust that I could let her see another part of me and another part of me and another part of me and another part of me. And now it's this thing where there's literally no one that knows me better. Like, I feel like I don't even know myself as well as she knows me. I feel like she knows me better than I even know myself. And it makes me better because she doesn't try to change me. But now I have the freedom and the ability and the capability to grow when I'm with her. Because now that I am with her and I'm fully known and I'm fully seen and I'm fully loved and accepted at the same time, it starts pointing out the flaws. It starts pointing out the weaknesses that I have in my character, that I have in my integrity. And now I can start working to build those things up. And I've grown so much as a man from being married to this woman. And it has made me a better man. Not because she's tried to change me, but because she's helped me grow. And there's a difference, right? Like, she's not trying to change the different parts of my personality. She's helping to grow my character. And there's a difference, right? She's not saying like, hey, you shouldn't be watching basketball. Like, you shouldn't love basketball. Like, if I started dating a girl and she said that, like, she's done. Instantly, you're dumped. Like, this ain't gonna work out with us. But she's not trying to change those things. She's trying to help me grow into being the best version of myself that I could possibly be. And when you are married, when you are fully committed to each other, you can fully know each other and you can help each other grow. So 1, it makes you committed. 2, it makes you better. 3, it lets you build, right? There are obviously legal advantages to being married when it comes to taxes and finances and all that kind of stuff. there are legal advantages to being married. But once again, it comes to that commitment part, and it comes to that trust part that, hey, for richer or for poorer, for better or for worse, like, we're in this thing, we're a team, you and me to the end, baby. Like, it lets you build, because we are not just, and I'm not just talking about money, it lets you build a legacy that you want to leave into the next generation, maybe the kids that you have, and maybe you don't even want kids, but you could leave a legacy in the community around you, in the world around you. And you could do that better and more effectively and in greater capacity when you are married, when you are committed together as a team. Because let's face it, man, if you living with your girlfriend, your boyfriend, and y'all been together for some time and you're not married, you don't think you need that, like, essentially in legal standing, like, you're roommates. Which sounds pretty lame, if you ask me. Like, you are like the equivalent of two 22-year-old dudes that just got out of college and got an apartment together. Like you are legally the same as them. The exact same. What are you going to build from that? All right. And not that you can't. However, there are just so many advantages, legally speaking, but also emotionally and spiritually speaking, when you are bonded together, when you are committed together, that you can start building not just in a financial aspect, but a legacy. When we talk about legacy, you can just build so much more when you are committed to each other and you are in a marriage union together. The drop for this week: if you're single, be picky. This is one area where it's like, hey, it is better to be single than to be married to the wrong one, because the wrong one will ruin your life. Like, don't do that. It is better to be single. Become the right one. We're going to do a whole nother episode on that at some point, but become the right one. Focus in on that and be picky when it comes to who you date and who you potentially marry. For the married, the drop, lean into this. Allow your marriage to make you more committed. Allow it to make you better. And allow it to let you build. Have a vision date. Like, have a sit down. If you haven't done this in a while, like me and my wife, we talk about this kind of stuff all the time, of what we want to build, like what we want to leave in this world, what we want to do with our lives. Like, we talk about this purpose all the time. If you haven't done that, like, have a vision date. Go out to dinner without the kids, just the two of you. Sit down and actually talk about the future. Like, when you leave this world, what impact would you have wanted to have? And start building that together. Love you guys. Thank you so much for joining back in on the newest season 2, episode 1 of Kicks and Minivans, the podcast. Man, we got some great guests coming up for you over the next couple months. I'm so excited for you guys to hear what some of these guys are saying. We are talking about some of the topics. We're hitting some tough topics this year. We're hitting some really tough ones this year. We got some great guests coming up to talk about them. I'm excited for it. But man, take care of yourself. Take care of your family. This is Kicks and Minivans.